Welcome to Live, Life Inspired Views for Every Day. My name is Chris Meyer, and I'm a curious soul. The wise sage Rumi once said, "One of the marvels of the world is the sight of a soul sitting in prison with the key in their hand." Hmm. Sit with that thought a minute. It reminds me of one of my two philosophies of life that I try to live by. The first one is every day I look forward to something. But the other one is I do not want to be 108 years old and look back on my life and ask, why didn't I? You might be asking, what's the connection about the soul sitting in prison with a key to being 108 and looking back on life without regret? Well, let's unpack that. Many of us have messages in our minds from our childhood that determine what risks we are willing to take to experience things, learn things, try things. These messages might say that you aren't smart enough, pretty or handsome enough, slender enough, clever enough, popular enough, always not enough. We can take on messages to live by no matter how wise our parents were in raising us. When we listen to negative messages about our potential, we are the soul sitting in prison with a key in our hand. So, what is it for you? For me, it's intelligence. Growing up, my older sister and brother were so smart. And as I grew older, I found out that my younger sister and brother were also so smart. I always saw my siblings as much smarter than me. In fact, for much of my life, for that reason, I was that soul sitting in prison with a key in my hand. I think I remember the day when I became aware of the desire to put that key in the lock and release my soul from the prison of not as smart as. I was a young mother and was volunteering in my son's kindergarten prep classroom one day when I looked across the hall and saw a friend Connie subbing in another classroom. It suddenly dawned on me that if I had a teaching degree, I could substitute in the schools and have the same hours as our children. But to do that, I would have to step out of the prison of not smart enough and go back to college to finish a 4-year degree. I put the key in the metaphorical lock that day, and I haven't stopped learning since. But I continue to face that prison cell every now and then when new experiences or opportunities arise, and those familiar cell walls start to close in where I sat thinking I might not be smart enough. After our son Andrew graduated from Luther College, he left for Seattle to begin a master's doctoral program at the University of Washington. I remember when he called us one night after his first class, feeling like he did not have the depth or the intelligence to contribute to class discussions with these super smart classmates. Those first experiences were so intimidating. However, soon, through study and risking the sound of his voice to carry his thoughts out of his mind to the discussion table, he learned he was enough, that he had what it takes to learn and rise to the intellectual level required of his degree. I saw a quote in an Oprah magazine once that said, "If someone asks you to do something, say yes and then learn how." Well, I'm putting the key in my cell lock once again. I've been asked to be a part of a book club comprised of an impressive list of highly intelligent thinkers. Many of you have heard of the imposter syndrome, which is the persistent doubt concerning one's abilities or accomplishments. In my head, I am saying, do you really measure up to that level of the thinking in this group? But I turned the key in the lock and said, yes, I'd love to join. As vulnerable human beings, we all fight with some kind of prison cell, all the while holding the key in our hands. What is it for you? It might be time to name it and claim it, as the saying goes. Once we admit to that fear, then we are more empowered to rise above or take control of it. I was getting my hair cut one day last year and asked my hairdresser, Travis, if he had become all the things he dreamed. He immediately replied, "Oh, goodness, yes. I should have had bigger dreams." Hmm. Sometimes we get wiser and braver as we get older. Maybe that's because, as some anonymous soul once said, life's greatest freedom is having nothing to prove. We keep locked in a cell when we keep living with expectations to prove ourselves. When we let that go, we fly out of the cage. What is holding you in your cell? Are you ready to put the key in the lock? I did. You can. This week on your bathroom mirror, write, "The key is in my hand. Turn it." Join me next Monday for Live, Life Inspired Views for Every Day. I'm Chris Meyer, and I'm a curious soul.